My father's name was Harris Joseph. Um, he was born on the 6th of March 1925, and that date is always registered in my mind. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1980, in February of 1980, while I was pretty young. But my experiences with him were really wonderful. I really grew up with my father um, all my early years, going to school, primary school. He was very protective of me. All my other siblings think that I was very spoiled by my father because of the relationship that existed. Um, my father was different to a lot of other men that I know in terms of his responsibility towards his family. Being a father, he raised 7 of his children on his own. Um, what stands out for me is the way that he treated us. He always did his best in providing for us and being there. He also did a lot in terms of our early value systems. While he himself may not have gone to church every Sunday, he made it his business to see to it that we attended church or Sunday school every Sunday. He told us a lot of stories growing up. In those days, you had no television and no entertainment per se, so it would be storytelling at nights. So everybody would be on his bed and he would be telling us stories. I don't know if some of the stories were real or if some of the stories were made up stories, but all kinds of stories about Laja Bless and Tibol and all of these kinds of things, Kopelape and Kopetik. So it was really a very good experience growing up with him. He was a carpenter by trade, and when he took jobs, he was an alcoholic, so not everything was 100% the way that we wanted it to be, but he was a very loving and caring father to myself and my other siblings. He always provided. We were not rich in material things, but we always ate very well because he provided. Always our meals were always guaranteed. The value systems that we inherited was very good. You could not come home with anything that he did not buy for you. I remember as a child going to school, if you came with a lead pencil or a pen or anything and he asked you, where did you get this? And you say, a child gave it to me. His question would be, is the child working for them to be able to give you something? And you know you had to match and bring it right back where you got it. So some of these systems we grew up with, and that's why even today when I get accused of so many things, I can laugh these things off because my value system as a child growing up did not permit us to be that way. You could not steal anything and come home with it. Anything you had that was not given to you by your parents or somebody that they approved of, you could not have it. So if you had to have it, you would have to hide it somewhere, never come to the house with it. So, you know, it was just wonderful. He was very soft-hearted. We knew exactly how to get him to agree to things. So if we ask him in those days, on rare occasions, you get to go to the beach on a Sunday school outing or at the end of the 7 weeks vacation when there's a round the island tour for school children. That's the time you would get to go out. And if you go and ask him and then he would say, well, there's no money, so he cannot send you. All of us would just sit down on the bed. Myself and my 4 other sisters, my other brothers were older, my 3 other sisters, we would sit there, nobody would say a word. You sit down there for 5-10 minutes and he looks at you, everybody with a sad face, and then he would say, well, Mama Lassie says I would believe Ali. So we knew exactly how to get it, and then he was very considerate in what I know about him as a father growing up. Because it was not easy in those days for a man to raise his own children and then to be there to provide, to go to work. As a carpenter, all my brothers, including myself, learned a bit of carpentry from him. I think I always wished that he was there, today to see the accomplishments of his children. He was a good man in terms of how he dealt with people in the community. We planted a lot of garden, whether it be dashing, yam. We had a lot of breadfruit and Julie mangoes on the family estate. And everybody would come and get their share. And as children growing up, we would get upset. All the hard work is us, and everybody come in and just take their share and go with it. We didn't quite understand what that was all about until we got much older. Around Christmas time, he would shop and he would make groceries and send to the elderly people. During the time that my mother was still around with him, he would give her money to shop, to make parcels, to distribute to the elderly people in the community. So today in my political life, when I go around and I do a lot of these things, I can reflect on growing up in a household where we saw that happening. Our doors were always open. Everybody, the number of people I know in the community who lived at our home for a period of time, because that was just the kind of person that he was. Nothing he had was too much to give to anybody. He would stay without and he would give to other persons. And so I really appreciate that value system growing up. We grew up as Methodists, so he made sure that we went to church. We did our first communion and all of these things as children. In those days, some of us would think, boy, I don't want to do this, but they would insist as parents that you do so. So these are really very good memories that I have of my father. I can still relate some of the stories that we were told growing up. And in those days, it used to be scary stories. So you had no electricity, so there was a lamp in the house. And then my sister's room was across from his room. So some of the stories used to be so scary that you would think if you hung your feet on the side of the bed as if something would grab your feet. So everybody would take one leap from on his bed to the other room, but I was always fortunate because I was sleeping on the same bed with him all the time. So we had a very, very close bond growing up, and it was really something very difficult to deal with when he passed. He was sick for a while and until he passed. I want to say to the men out there, especially those who have taken on raising their children, and there are a few that I have come across in my political career who come to me and tell me, hey, I have a couple kids, I am raising them. And I'm always very proud of the men when I see they can do this, because it almost becomes something that is natural, that we expect a single mother to raise a child and not necessarily just a single father raising a child. Our society is skewed in the direction that responsibility is always that of the women. And so I want to, as we reflect on Father's Day, I would really want to applaud and congratulate the men who are single fathers raising their children, and the men who are being real fathers to their children. And those who are being fathers, even if they are not the biological father of a child, but they continue to contribute and raise that child as if it was their own. You know, the society has labeled people in all kinds of ways, but there is nothing that can be more valuable in this instance. When you can be a father figure to somebody, when you can be a good example, and when you can be the one to provide for a family, and especially a young child, and to see that child grow up and become somebody that you can really be proud of. So I really want to applaud the men who are doing so. And I want to appeal to the men who know that they have kids out there but are not being real fathers to these children. You know, to refocus your attention. Because I've seen many men in many situations, it's only when the children grow up and they become successful, they are eager to say, Ishmael, or that's my daughter, or that's my son. But during the years of struggle, they were not there. I want to appeal to them, especially those who have young kids, now to try and be as much a part of the child's life as possible. Relationships may not have worked out, but that does not give us an excuse to renege from our responsibility. And as men, too many men in our society are having kids and leaving them out there just for the ladies to struggle to take care of them. So I want to appeal to all fathers, those who are biological fathers and those who are adopted fathers, to continue to be the best father that you can be. I really want to wish all fathers a very happy Father's Day. Not a Father's Day of just celebrating, eating and drinking and saying that you are a father, but really being a father by taking on that responsibility, especially to the fathers in Castries Southeast. As you reflect upon how you have been, if your children are still alive, if you are there today, you have the opportunity to make amends. You may have a child that you've never really connected to. You have the opportunity now to do so. Let us celebrate this Father's Day in a COVID environment as we really ought to as fathers, to be providers and to be there to give the love that is needed, and that every child growing in this land would have a father figure in their lives. Mwen vle pren l'okasyon sa pou souhaiter tout papa un bonjour fête papa kon ka célébrer sa nou kouye Father's Day. Mwen sav dat place la nou ka vive la, tan nou ka vive la, an chay moun pa apren responsabilité yo kon papa pou fè sa yo supposé fè bayish yo. Mwen ka pale bay tout se moun sa, tout se nom la ki ni ish ek yo pa ka gade pou se ish la, pour essayer mettre ça douette et faire des voix au con papa pour ça faire ça nécessaire bailler chaud, pas juste pour déposer l'argent l'audience et même pour bailler madame l'argent tous les mois, mais pour venir en part en la vie c'est ça pour aider élever yo à dans bonne manière so that société nous ka en plus meilleure société. Moi ka souhaiter tout papa un bonne fête papa et qu'on ka célébrer à nous changer that responsabilité nous c'est yon qui bien important pour nous faire ça qui nécessaire. Whether on yish qui ça ou même, et bien whether c'est yish ou adopté, même si on pas été pour but c'est ou qui ka bayo ça qui nécessaire pour occuper yo, on continue faire ça, puis là toujours une bénédiction. Là on fait bon travail comme et pour tout papa en Sainte-Lucie et Lyon, la terre nous ka souhaiter bonne jour fête papa.